Hello, my name is Cristian Lopez. I'm a Spanish teacher from Mexico, and today we're going to be talking about the difference between these two verbs, ser and estar. You've probably heard before that uh, we use ser to talk about permanent things, and we use estar for temporary things. However, let me tell you that this is wrong. If you use this rule, you will see that there are lots and lots of exceptions. And when you find so many exceptions to a rule, then it is not a rule. There is also this idea that we use ser for certain situations and then we use estar for other situations. Now, what is the problem with these two acronyms? Well, the first one is that, as I said before, it gives you the impression that we use ser for certain situations and estar for other situations, but that is really not the case. And the other problem with these acronyms is that in a real life situation, it's very difficult to remember all of these words, to remember a long list of things to decide which verb you're going to use. So I don't recommend using this. And in my opinion, these do not explain exactly what is the difference between these two verbs. Then what is the real difference? Well, let's see. We use ser to talk about characteristics. When we need to talk about the essence or the nature of something, when we're describing something. And we use estar to talk about the state of something. Mhm. Um, the word estado, which means state, is right there. As you can see, these two words are related, estar and estado. So just remember that. We use estar to talk about states, and we use ser to talk about essential characteristics of something. Let's take a look at some examples. Juan es hombre. So that is Juan is a man. And what I'm saying is that being a man is an essential characteristic of Juan. That is the nature of Juan. Maria es mujer. It's the same thing. Maria is a woman. That is an essential characteristic of Maria. We're describing who these people are. Now, as you can see, we can use the verb ser to imply that something equals something else. Juan equals a man. Juan es igual a un hombre. María equals a woman. María es igual a una mujer. That's why in mathematics we use the verb ser. We have the example 3 times 3 equals 9. We could say that in Spanish, 3 por 3 es 9. Es means that something equals something else. And by the way, during this presentation, I'm going to be using green for the verb ser and orange for the verb estar so you can identify them more easily. Let's take a look at another example. We have el cielo es azul. So sky is blue. And then we have el cielo está nublado. Sky is cloudy. Mm? So by using ser, in the first example, el cielo es azul, what I'm saying is that blue is a characteristic of the sky. In the other example, el cielo está nublado, what I'm saying is that yes, it is cloudy, but I am saying that that is just the state the sky is in. I'm not saying that that is a characteristic of the sky. It doesn't have to be cloudy to be a sky. We have this other example. El queso es amarillo. So what I'm saying is that this particular cheese is yellow, and that is a characteristic of this cheese. However, if I say el queso está verde, what I'm saying is that that is not a characteristic of that cheese. It is green, but that's not normal. Therefore, if I say el queso es amarillo, that's something I can eat. But if I say el queso está verde, that is not normal. That is not a normal characteristic of that cheese, and therefore I cannot eat that particular cheese. Let's say we're talking about blue cheese. I can say el queso es azul. So cheese is blue, but what I'm saying, because I'm using the verb ser, is that that is a characteristic of that cheese, and I can eat it. That's normal. However, if I say el queso está azul, what I'm saying is that that is not a characteristic. That is a state in which this particular cheese is in. And that means that I cannot eat that cheese. That is not normal. Can you see the difference? We're using the exact same structure, the exact same words in both sentences, but we are changing the meaning by changing the verb. Let's take a look at some other examples. Ricardo es de España. Ricardo is from Spain. And so what I'm saying is that being from Spain is part of who Ricardo is. Diana es española. Diana is Spanish. We're saying exactly the same thing. Being Spanish is part of who Diana is. But then in the other two examples, Ricardo está triste. Ricardo is sad. And Diana está cansada. Diana is tired. So what I'm saying is that triste, sad, and cansada, tired, are not characteristic of these two people. And in these two examples, yes, these are temporary things, but let's take a look at another example. La mesa es de madera. So what I'm saying is the table is made out of wood. This is a wooden table. La mesa es de madera. De madera, that is a characteristic of this table. We have la mesa era grande. So the table was big. And pay attention to this. Let's imagine that I used to have a big apartment and I had this very large table, a very large wooden table. But then I moved to a new apartment and I needed to cut this large table because now it was too big for my apartment, for my new apartment. So that's why I say la mesa era grande, the table was big, but now la mesa es pequeña, the table is small. As you can see, I changed a characteristic of that table. This is a perfect example that shows that you can change a characteristic of something, you can modify something, and that doesn't mean that it is a state. So we're not going to use estar in those cases. We're still going to use the verb ser. If we're modifying a characteristic, we use ser. Let's take a look at these other examples. El agua es transparente, so water is transparent, y el agua está fría. As you can see, being transparent, being clear, that is a characteristic of water. But if I say el agua está fría, so water is cold, what I'm saying is that being cold does not describe what the water is. This is just the state the water is in, but it doesn't have to be cold to be water. In the other example, el vaso era útil, the glass was useful. Being useful is part of what a glass is supposed to be. But el vaso está roto, the glass is broken. What I'm saying is that broken is not how the glass is supposed to be. But take a look at this example. If the glass is broken, el vaso está roto, that is a permanent thing. I cannot fix it. So even though it is a permanent thing, I still use está because what I'm saying is that being broken is not a normal thing for this glass. In the other example, Mozart era un compositor alemán. Mozart was a German composer or Austrian, as you like. I am describing Mozart as a German composer. But then I say Mozart está muerto. Mozart is dead. And by using the verb está, what I'm saying is that being dead is not something that describes Mozart. I can describe Mozart as a genius, as a musician, a composer. I can say many things about Mozart, but being dead, even though it is a permanent state, is not something that describes Mozart. So I cannot use ser with muerto. But there is probably one exception. If I say un zombie es un muerto viviente, What I'm saying is that being dead is actually part of what a zombie is. If it is not dead, it is not a zombie. Mis padres son felices. Mis padres están felices. So if I say mis padres son felices, that means that my parents are happy people. Being happy is a characteristic of my parents. That's who they are. They are happy people. But if I say mis padres están felices, what I'm saying is that they are happy right now because of a certain reason. But I'm not saying that they are happy people necessarily. I'm just saying they are happy right now. Están felices. In the other example, el oro es caro. Gold is expensive. What I'm saying is that being expensive is a normal characteristic of gold. El oro es caro. But if I say el oro está caro, I'm not describing gold as being an expensive material. What I'm saying is that the price of gold is high right now. You know, the price can go up or it can go down, but right now, the cost, the value of gold is high, and therefore está caro. In the next example, we have el director es muy orgulloso, and orgulloso means proud. But what I'm saying here, el director es muy orgulloso, being prideful is a characteristic of this person. So if I say el director es muy orgulloso, he's a prideful person. He might be an arrogant person. But if I say el director está muy orgulloso, I'm saying he's not a proud person, but he's proud right now. So very different meanings depending on which verb I am using. So I hope you understand the difference and that these examples are helping you to understand better when to use ser and when to use estar. But there is another rule that is that we use estar to talk about the location or the position of something. Then again, it doesn't matter if it's permanent, if it's temporary, and it doesn't matter if it is a characteristic of a certain thing. If that is a location or a position, we always use estar. Like in these examples, la pelota está atrás de la silla. The ball is behind the chair. So we're talking about a position, a location. We use estar. Venecia está en Italia. Venice is in Italy. And that is a permanent thing. Being in Italy is actually a characteristic of Venice. But because we're talking about a location, we're going to use estar. No estamos en la oficina. We're not at the office. Again, it's a location. La Estatua de la Libertad está en Nueva York. The Statue of Liberty is in New York and it's exactly the same as with the example of Venice. Doesn't matter if it is a permanent thing. Being in New York is pretty much a characteristic of the Statue of Liberty, but because it is a location, we use estar. In contrast to this, we usually use ser to talk about time, like in these examples. Ayer fue domingo. Yesterday was Sunday. And we are describing the day before today as being Sunday. So this is consistent with the first rule we talked about. We use ser to say that something equals another thing. Ayer fue domingo. Yesterday was Sunday. El Congreso será en junio. The summit will be in June. Again, I'm saying that the characteristic of this summit is that it is going to be in June, so I still use the verb ser. Son las 5 p.m. It is 5 o'clock in the afternoon, or it is 5 p.m. Again, we're describing this moment as being 5. Again, so this moment equals 5 o'clock. So as you can see, we use ser with time because that is consistent with the first rule. And we talk about the essence, the characteristic of something, or the nature of something. Because of that, we can use ser with adjectives and nouns. We say that this thing is big, that is a characteristic of something, or he is my brother. Mhm. So let's say Juan is my brother, so I'm describing him as being my brother, and I still use the verb ser. What I cannot do is use the verb estar with nouns. That's why we say Sergio es arquitecto. Sergio is an architect. I am defining him as an architect. Luisa y Andrea son estudiantes. Luisa y Andrea are students. Then again, I am describing them as students. Laura y Ana son hermanas. Laura and Anna are sisters. I am defining them as sisters. Um, all of these words, arquitecto, estudiantes, hermanas, are nouns. Therefore, I cannot use estar with them. That's really it for the difference between ser and estar. We use ser to talk about characteristics. We use estar to talk about states or positions of things. However, there is something that causes a lot of confusion among Spanish students. Let's say that we're talking about a big house. Which verb would you choose, ser or estar? Well, being big is a characteristic of that house, so it would have to be ser. La casa es grande. And that is the correct answer. However, in many parts of Latin America, we use ser when we want to talk objectively about something, when we're trying to present facts. And we use estar when we're presenting our perception. Now, if you are doing a test during an examination, use always ser when you're talking about characteristic. Do not use estar. However, you might hear people using estar to talk about characteristics, but that's because they are expressing their perception. Now, again, this is in Latin America. People in Spain do not use estar when they want to express their perception. That this rule just doesn't exist. Uh, let's take a look at some examples. Arturo es alto. So Arturo is tall. Arturo está alto. Then again, Arturo is tall. Uh, Again, the right answer during an examination would be Arturo es alto. But if you hear someone saying Arturo está alto, that means that that is how the person perceives Arturo. Maybe I am a short person, so compared to me, he is tall. He might be tall or not, but that's what I think. That's how I feel when I'm near Arturo. I think that he is tall. I perceive that he is a tall person, even if he is not. But if I say Arturo es alto, I'm being more objective. He is really a tall person. The next example, la secretaria es joven. Secretary is young. Y la secretaria está joven. The secretary is young. Then again, if I say la secretaria es joven, I am objectively talking about this person. I'm saying that she is a young person. But if I say la secretaria es joven, that is just my perception. Maybe she works at an office where there are a lot of old people and she is the youngest one. Maybe she's not that young, but compared to the other people around her, la secretaria está joven. She's young. Este reloj es caro. This watch or this clock is expensive. In este reloj está caro. If I say este reloj es caro, again, I'm objectively talking about that specific clock or watch. Maybe it is a Rolex. So by nature is going to be an expensive watch. I'm defining that watch as being a luxury item. That's why I'm saying es caro. However, if I say el reloj está caro, that can mean a few things. For me, it's expensive. I don't have enough money to buy that watch. It can also be that in that particular store, that watch is expensive, but I might find it somewhere else cheaper. That might also mean that, the price of the watch is going up and down, and right now it is expensive. But in none of those cases, I am defining that watch as being an expensive item, unless I say el reloj es caro. I hope these examples are useful for you, understanding what is the difference between ser and estar. If you like this video, give it a like, share it with other people, subscribe to my channel, and even though this is just the first video, I'll be uploading other videos with your request. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Tell me if you want me to make a video about a specific topic. My name is Cristian Lopez. I'm a Spanish teacher from Mexico. I teach in italki. So I'll leave you my link to my italki profile in the description. If you would like to have lessons with me, you'll have all the information there. Until next time, bye.